Welcome to One-on-One with County Executive Ike Leggett. I'm Lorna Virgili, and we're here again. We're sitting down again, second time this summer, to talk about what's going on in Montgomery County. Even though it's summer, it's wrapping up. Things have been a little busy still here in our county.
Well, we continue to work, continue to have challenges, and continue to resolve as many of them as we possibly can. So it's not a time in which we totally relax during the summer here in Montgomery County.
Well, thank you once again for taking the time to sit down and talk about what's going on in Montgomery County.
Okay.
Let's get started with that trip to El Salvador. You just concluded a 5-day trip to the Central American country, and a sister city agreement was signed with the Department of Morazan, northeastern part of the country. Tell us a little bit about that experience and who went there with you.
Well, first of all, it was a wonderful experience. We had almost 70 people from Montgomery County. Clearly, there were a number of people from the county government itself, Bruce Adams, Kathleen Boucher, Patrick Lacefield, and others who accompanied me. And we had Rodriguez from the Silver Spring Service Center. We had a number of other people as well. Councilman George Leventhal, former Congresswoman Connie Morella was there as well. In addition to that, we had Habitat for Humanity, brought I think it's 11 to 12 people, and they engaged in building a home there. We had some parents engaged in the school system. Gabe Avanos, who accompanied us, helped in a community center recreational project that we had. We had people from the Latino economic development community who helped on some economic development projects and help and assistance and support to them as well. So when you conclude all of the people who were there, we had nearly 70 people. It was an outstanding representation from Montgomery County. And as you've indicated, we've engaged to have the first formal sister city program with the Department of Morazan. It is one of the poor areas in El Salvador, but it's one that I think clearly reflects the kind of emphasis that I want to see with sister city arrangements. Many of the sister city arrangements are more or less about festivals, they're about simply communication, about cultural exchanges. They are about good public relations in some places, and I've seen that in other places around the country. This is not about good image per se, this is about good work. And we hope to create an image that I think will be positive, not only for El Salvador, but for Montgomery County as well.
During the signing of the agreement, the Sister City Agreement, you were there with the U.S. Ambassador to El Salvador, Mari Carmen Aponte, and also with the Governor of Morazan, Miguel Ventura, as well. But there were about 800 people around you guys while you guys were signing this agreement. What was that experience like?
It was unbelievable. Not only at this formal signing ceremony, we had such a large number of people, but we saw large numbers of people throughout the entire trip. We would go into small villages and large numbers of people simply would come out to meet and greet us. Interesting, you mentioned the U.S. Ambassador. The U.S. Ambassador and I really go back 31 years. In 1981, she and I went to China for a 3.5-week trip, and we had an awful good time together. We are both former White House fellows. I was a White House fellow 1 year prior to her becoming a White House fellow, so I've known her for a long period of time. She's done a terrific job for us and really made our trip much easier and much better for us as we signed the agreement. And so she was there formally in her role as the ambassador as we signed the Sister City Agreement. But the challenge that we have and the difficulties we see, for example, in Montgomery County, we have over 50,000 residents who are from El Salvador. And we have large numbers of people and organizations who are helping to support ongoing projects back in El Salvador. So we engage with these community organizations, we engage with citizens from El Salvador who are here in Montgomery County so that they can help us to build these bridges. We have large numbers of people who are here who are working, who are contributing to the economy of Montgomery County, who are part of our school system, part of the community, and we want to make certain that as we proceed in the future, we are able to do so in a way that is constructive, not only for Montgomery County, but for El Salvador as well.
The participants, including yourself, during this trip, everybody paid their own expense, which is important to clear during these tough economic times here in Montgomery County. And you brought your wife along as well. Mm-hmm. What would you say was the highlight of this particular trip for you annualized?
Well, I think it's two. One of which is to look at the levels of poverty, economic development challenges that they have, and some of the questions and problems that they have associated with security issues, violence. It is awful good to understand that from their perspective. And you look at the country itself, which is just under 6 million people. Half of those citizens in El Salvador are under the age of 18. That's a large population. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to spur some hope and help economic development for the communities there, so that many of the people who would want to exercise options to stay there can do so. They've indicated that they would love to do so, but when you have fewer jobs, you have fewer opportunities, then they choose to go other places. And so one of the things that we think we can benefit from this trip is to make certain that we provide at least a spark to engage other organizations around this country to help those in El Salvador to improve their quality of life there.
You mentioned the fact that the population tends to be a younger population in El Salvador, and Recreation Director Gabe Albornoz, who went on the trip with you, accompanied you, and the delegation mentioned the fact that talking to the youth over there, some of the issues, the problems that they face and the challenges are very similar to the ones faced by youth here in Montgomery County. How would you relate that?
Well, clearly there's a difference of magnitude, but some of the same challenges, youth not having the kinds of recreational outlets, not having after-school programs, not having the kinds of jobs that they would want, are challenges. But when we talk about poverty and we talk about challenges here, Montgomery County is one of the more affluent communities in all of America. And we're talking about a community there that really poverty is really something that is quite challenging, where people only make at best when they're working somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 per day. That's a fairly small amount of money to do some of the things that they want done there. And so when you look at the challenges that they face, it's an eye-opener for many people to see and to experience.
We're going to take a small break right now, and we're going to continue talking about your trip to El Salvador and basically what's going to be next steps. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back here on 101 with County Executive Ike Leggett. Welcome back to 101. I'm Lorna Virgilia. We're sitting once again here talking to County Executive Ike Leggett, and we were just talking about your recent trip to El Salvador with this delegation of about 70 people representing Montgomery County. What's next after everything said and heard and done during this trip? What are the next steps?
Well, this is just a beginning. And signing the official sister city agreement is not the end of the process, but the beginning of the process. We will continue to work with many of the nonprofit sectors. We'll continue to identify opportunities that we can assist and help. We'll continue to work with the local El Salvadoran community and to ensure that we follow through on the many initiatives that we've started. We have a number of wonderful ideas working, especially with the nonprofits, so that we can assist on some of the ongoing economic development projects, housing, medical assistance. We have a program now to identify recreational resources, and we are also engaged with our own Army Corps of Engineers down there to try to rebuild a military barracks into something that's more constructive for the community. So there are a number of projects that we're working on. So what I would like to do in years to come is to look back and say how well that we've accomplished many of the things we've outlined for the community at this point in time that we've identified. I think that we have a good record to work on and a wonderful foundation, but the real test of this is what it looks like in 3 or 4 years down the line.
Very well. Now let's switch a little bit more to what's going on here in Montgomery County. Last time we met, we talked about the legislation you had proposed on the teen curfew. What is the update on that, and where is it heading to right now?
Well, it's somewhat mixed, because I think that some people initially looked at it in the wrong light, that is, in a more of a punitive manner. It was not designed for that, but to be more proactive, to give our police an opportunity to have some additional options available to them. But when you think about it, you think about a proactive measure, not a punitive one. And we've provided a number of exceptions for kids who are out late at night, who are under the age of 18, who are engaged in constructive behavior, who are engaged in work and other related exceptions that we've identified. So I think right now the public is now beginning to see the bill for true sense that we've developed it. But unfortunately, we've had some incidents in the county that, in my opinion, only reassures my determination to get a curfew bill in Montgomery County. We recently had a flash mob to assemble at a 7-Eleven in Germantown that came in, kids just simply creating havoc in the store. We can't allow that to happen. It is not to suggest that a curfew bill will be a panacea for all of the challenges, but it may be an answer to some. And if we can prevent any crime and we can reduce it and preclude our kids from engaging in this type of behavior, I think it's worthwhile. This is something that the entire county needs, whether in Germantown, Silver Spring, Bethesda, Potomac, wherever in this county. There are challenges with large numbers of unsupervised youth who are creating challenges for our police agency and are presenting challenges in terms of violence and destructive behavior across the board. So we want to get ahead of that, and I think this bill now can only be reinforced by the things that we've seen. In addition to that, unfortunately, there are a large number of young kids who are unemployed now because of the economy. And as a result of that, too many have things that they are engaged in now that are not constructive, too much time on their hands. We've tried to fill an awful lot of that with our Positive Youth Initiative, but the Positive Youth Initiative and the things that we do within our school system will not compensate for people who may come from outside of our community into Montgomery County who are young and who are engaged in antisocial behavior and criminal behavior in the county. Keep in mind also, there is a curfew in Prince George's County. There is a curfew in the District of Columbia, and we set as also like an oasis here, where young people realize they don't have curfews in other locations and they simply can come to Montgomery County. For me, that day is over. We need to change that dynamic, and I think a curfew is long overdue, and I would hope that the County Council will engage and act positively on the initiative that I have before them.
For the benefit of the people that are hearing about this curfew for the first time, let's clarify what the curfew is actually about. Monday through Friday until 11 p.m., correct?
Monday through Thursday.
Thursday, school nights until 11 p.m.
Correct.
And then during the weekend until midnight.
Yeah,
correct.
For young people who are below the age of 18.
Of 18.
Now, there are exceptions. If you work, if you're with a parent or with a guardian, if you're running emergencies, and a variety of other exceptions that we've looked at, and we're open to even other suggestions. But keep in mind, we have large numbers of unsupervised youth that are engaged in criminal behavior, not just after 11 p.m. I don't want to give that impression, but I think that when you look at it overall, you'll see that there's a great need for this, and we need to act on it. And you've seen what is happening. It doesn't take a great deal to create flash mobs. It doesn't take a great deal for young people to congregate. It doesn't take a great deal for kids to get engaged in antisocial and criminal behavior. Look at what has happened in places like Philadelphia. Look at what has happened twice in Montgomery County, both in Silver Spring and now in Germantown. This is something that's long overdue, and I think we need to come out of denial and deal with a problem that is growing and is likely to get worse. I do not want to have an incident of a huge magnitude in Montgomery County. We look back and said, we should have done this, we should have done that. No, the best thing to do is to be proactive and to get ahead of the game and to try to deal with it as effectively as we can now.
Let's talk about another issue in Montgomery County as well, which has been the foreclosure crisis. Since the market crisis, there's been approximately 20,000 foreclosures in Montgomery County. Recently, the county's housing department, together with the state's housing department and community affairs, held this workshop trying to promote the emergency mortgage assistance program, which is a program that some homeowners qualify for if they're already late making mortgage payments. One of the things that Director Rick Nelson mentioned was the fact that right now it's kind of like a cooling period waiting for the banks to finalize a lot of the foreclosure issues pending or loan modifications pending, but there might be the fear that some of them start coming down very quickly at one point or another. So your take on that?
Well, first of all, you cannot rely upon the fact that the banks have either been delinquent or negligent in their handling and processes of paperwork. At some point, you have to realize that they may ultimately get their act together. And when that happens, large numbers of foreclosures that are properly outlined, properly processed, will ultimately come to a reality. And that's the fact that we have to deal with. And so some people are waiting and expecting and hoping that that may last for a considerable period of time, or assume that the banks may forget. Well, you can't make that assumption. What you need to do, if best possible, to get some advice now, to get counseling that you may need, and the support and assistance, because the objective here is to prevent as many foreclosures as possible. Because once you're in foreclosure, it takes on a different process, and it's harder, not impossible, but it is harder to resolve something favorable for the homeowner. So one of the programs, and this program is one, is designed to try to prevent the foreclosures in the first place. And I think that many people are now realizing that there's help out there, and that we have some resources, and we're there to help people to the best degree we can. With the states, I think in the federal government, about $40 million. There's still some support out there, but it first requires people to get actively engaged and to be on cue in terms of what they need to do in order to avoid this foreclosure.
Yeah, and that's precisely what this workshop was all about. We're going to take a small break, and we will be right back with County Executive Ike Leggett here on 101. Welcome back to 101. I'm Lorna Virgili, and we're here talking once again with County Executive Ike Leggett. Thank you so much for sitting here with us and talking about what's going on in Montgomery County. Lots of transportation resolves happened in the last couple of weeks here in the county. We're talking about Cedar Lane reopening and then the extension of Father Hurley Boulevard. Smaller extension, but it's a big road for those residents in Germantown. So tell us on the transportation side, what's going on in the county?
Well, first of all, when you go back to Cedar Lane, it's a project that was long overdue, and it presented a real challenge for people in the Bethesda area. As it relates to Father Hurley, this is a project, believe it or not, that I was engaged in 1996 when I was a member of the county council. And we basically created what I would refer to as a Berlin Wall between portions of the community by not having that road extended. The road needed to be extended so that people could take advantage of all the wonderful amenities that are in Germantown Town Center to pull together the entire community, cut down on the destinations for people for work and a variety of other things. So it was long overdue. Our Department of Transportation, I thought, did a wonderful job. It's a bridge that goes over the railroad tracks as well. But it's a short link, but a very important one that we call the Up-County ICC because it's a small version
and it's
of
free.
it. And it's free. That's right, it's free. But overall, here's the real challenge that we have now in transportation. And this is the BRAC realignment for the Bethesda Naval Medical Center. As you know, Walter Reed is relocating from the District of Columbia in part to Montgomery County, in part to Northern Virginia. It will bring in the neighborhood of 2,500 new employees, as well as 500,000 new patient visits to that location. It's a huge number. Through our congressional delegation, and Chris Van Hollen and Mikulski and Cardin and all, they were able to garner a substantial amount of money in the neighborhood of $300 million shared between Northern Virginia and Montgomery County to assist in some of the transportation-related projects around the Naval Medical Center. But that's a small amount in terms of the overall need. What we are doing immediately is to try to train some of the intersections, to improve the roads, to get ultimately an underground passageway between NIH, the Metro Center, and the Bethesda Naval Medical as well. We've identified a series of projects in various stages. I think the first stage are the kinds of projects that you can immediately see. The fourth stage are some of the long-range projects of looking at an off-beltway ramp into the medical center and a variety of other things. But the challenge for us right now is having, in a very congested area already, large numbers of cars, vehicles coming into that area that could potentially create a bottleneck of significant magnitude. We're working aggressively with the state, and we're working with the federal authorities to try to relieve that, but we can't do that overnight, and the patients and the staff will be arriving within the next 60 days or so, and will create a transitional problem for us that we'll have to deal with for a considerable period of time.
Construction is expected to begin when, and how long does it is it going to last?
Well, there have been a number of construction projects. Some may start immediately. We've already engaged in a number of projects. So we're looking at a number of years before we complete all of the projects. They are in 4 different stages. We're just now on the first stage of a 4-stage project of projects that we need. But the biggest problem is not the organizational structure. It is not the projects that have not been identified, but the resources to, in fact, engage those projects. There's very little money locally. It's clearly very little money at the state in terms of its transportation budget. And the federal government has gone through a series of cutbacks that could make this a problematic challenge for us that we have to deal with. But it's going to take some time for us to deal with this. But we're working aggressively to try to identify it. We've been working on it for a number of years, but the challenges for us are quite limited at this time.
And for the residents at this point is basically let's be patient, because construction is going to take place and it's going to be better at the end of the day.
Yeah, we've done some things to help improve it. We've changed some of the intersections, we've widened some of the roads, and we're going to do as much as we can with the resources that we have and resources that we anticipate in the foreseeable future. But we do need some level of patience and understanding for the residents who live in and around the Naval Medical Center.
Let's talk about upcoming events in the county. We're gearing up for the fall already. September 11th is the 10th year anniversary, coming up very soon. I believe the county is going to have a commemoration here in Rockville on the 9th.
Right.
Talk about it.
Well, we have a program on the 9th of September to commemorate the 9/11 attack. There's also a statewide program that will occur in Baltimore, a dedication of a memorial for the number of victims that were killed in Maryland and also in Montgomery County. But this is designed to bring attention with the city of Rockville to the fact that we had Montgomery County residents who died, that this kind of an incident should not happen again in our community, and we'll never forget those who lost their lives during that period of time. But it's a time also for us to renew our sense of security, our faith in what our governments can and cannot do, and what we as individuals can do in order to avoid the kinds of tragedies that we saw 10 years ago. This is an important period for America, and we continue to struggle mightily with the challenges that we see in terms of security. But we cannot relinquish our guards. We cannot assume that these challenges will go away overnight. But this is a reminder for us that we still live in a world where there are tremendous threats, and we need to try to work together to resolve them.
Another activity that will take place precisely that same weekend is the well-known Silver Spring Jazz Festival. It will be the following day, correct, the 10th?
Yes, it will be, and I think there may be some highlights for the September 11th commemoration as well in the Jazz Festival. But this is an ongoing effort for us to bring the kind of cultural music and entertainment that we continue to see all year in Silver Spring. This is a combination of a long series of programs that the Regional Center conducted throughout the summer. But right after that in Silver Spring, we'll be opening the new Fillmore just a few days after that. So an awful lot happening in Silver Spring. So the new Fillmore will open officially on the 15th of September. We have a Jazz Fest on the 10th of September and a variety of other activities that continue to engage the community in Silver Spring as well.
We only have just 1 more minute left. Summer's wrapping up, fall's coming up. What are the priorities?
Well, first of all, the county was reassured with its AAA bond rating again, which is, I think, a strong indication of the financial management and the leadership that myself, the council, and others have provided to ensure that Montgomery County is a sustainable budgetary community with the resources in the right place to the degree that we have them, and the kind of priorities that would allow us to continue to grow and flourish in the best way possible in this rather down economy. So we've received a AAA bond rating from Moody's, from Fitch, and even from Standard & Poor's, and so it's a good sign for the county. We continue to look to improve our educational system, but to continue to work to make certain that our financial house is in order is the top priority, and of course to deal with public safety as it becomes more evident related to the curfew and other things.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with us once again. We look forward to our next meeting, probably next month, and well, it's time to keep working in Montgomery County. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
And that does it for 101 with County Executive Ike Leggett. I'm Lorna Virgili, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.